in order to be established as an actor. And in keeping up with that timeline, I noticed certain difference in my body. I noticed that I was doing things fast, I was eating fast, I was speaking fast, and there were times when I couldn't even sleep. I had a roommate at the time, and she said, "You seem to be showing the signs of anxiety." And I just remember going into my room and thinking to myself, anxiety is something that white girls get, because I've never heard of a Black person in the community ever talking about mental health or any form of mental health. We just don't talk about it. And my ignorance in saying that was because, like, I was always the only Black girl throughout college with my acting classes. So theater and film, I was usually one of the only Black girls. So I would hear my friends talk about being either depressed or having meltdowns. And I used to think that is really brave, because I can never bring such language home to my Jamaican Rastafarian father. We just don't talk like that, you know? My roommate was right. I did check myself into the hospital. I did have anxiety, and it was rapid. It's the feeling of being locked in a cage, like your heart is in this cage and it's beating 1,000,000 miles per second. And with every beat, your heart is growing bigger and bigger, but the cage is getting smaller and smaller. I honestly felt like I was gonna die. I decided that I had to move back home to Toronto because I was really sick. And although I love Vancouver, love the friends there that I made, I needed family to take care of me. The thought of moving back to Toronto and being a quote unquote loser and not achieving my goals spiraled my anxiety into depression. Now, my depression came in 2 stages. It came in the stage that is normally known. I'm sorry, that is my daughter. It came in a stage that is normally known, which is the closing the blinds, the not eating, or the eating yourself silly, the not showering for days, the not brushing your teeth for days, the not answering the phone, just being in a pool of darkness. Even my home reflected that, because there was no sunlight coming into my home, and crying all the time. The other stage came in being all dolled up all the time, made sure my hair was done to the 9, my nails were done, my makeup was on point, everything I wore was a name brand, and going out and partying all the time, because I knew I was sick. And I thought that by pursuing or showcasing a facade of happiness, I would get rid of the darkness that was inside me, because I just didn't understand it. And that's a lot of people don't talk about this form of depression. We always seem to think that depression is a form where you're just not talking to anyone, you're numb, you're feeling depressed, when sometimes depression is the friend that's traveling all the time. Sometimes depression is a friend that's partying all the time, because you're trying to escape a reality that you don't know, you can't put a language to, or you don't understand it. So you feel like, if I put on this facade, then I will be happy. So that happened to me, and I didn't have anyone I could really talk to about it, except for my dad. I felt like my dad is closest to me. I was raised in a single father home. And I went to my dad and spoke to him, and my dad said, drink some tea, read your Bible, and pray. And I was doing all of that. And that's usually the recipe or the formula for getting rid of mental illness, especially in the Jamaican community. I will talk specifically in my community and how I was raised. I was doing all of that. It wasn't working. I went back to my dad again, and my dad said, went back 3 times. My dad said, since you like to talk so much, how about you tell your business to strangers? That was his ignorant way of saying, I don't want you telling a friend, because if you tell a friend, that friend may tell another friend and another friend, and then it may go back home to Jamaica that he is raising a mad daughter. And no parent wants to claim that. No parent wants to feel like they have failed. And that's what I did. Not on purpose. I was sitting at a park one day. I was in my mood of crying. I used to wear sunglasses all the time. And this lady walked up to me and asked me what's wrong. And I just told her. And all I wanted in that moment of despair, when I was going through that journey of depression and suicidal ideation, I just needed a safe space. And that safe space isn't something physical, but more like a person that I could talk to and share without being judgmental, without saying you have a roof over your head and clothes over your back, without saying this is something that white people get, you need to be strong, without having those labels on me. And so that talk with that lady, I started using strangers as my therapist. And I started unloading all of this weight that I was carrying. I'm gonna wrap it up. I decided that I was gonna do a show a show called The Mystic Effect. I wanted to fuse all the elements of art together and put people that aren't really have a name for themselves yet in Toronto, give them a stage to perform. This was my way of, after doing this show, I very rarely say this, but this was my way of taking my own life, because I wanted to take my own life, but I felt like I needed to leave a minuscule of a mark in this world before I left. So I created this event. It was sold out. And honestly, every single person that came to that event that said, you need to do it again, is the reason of why I'm here today. I was not going to be here again because I felt like this is my way of going out, and I'm going to do this event, and I'm going to eventually take my own life. But everyone said the event was so successful, they're like, you got to do it again. I decided I'm going to do it again, create a production company in the lapse of doing that. When that was happening, I started getting a buzz in Toronto, who is a Stacy-Ann, and I just felt like it was a really negative talk because people didn't know that it took 10 years of trying to be here. And so I told my dad that I didn't like the negative talk. And my dad said, there are two things in life you cannot control: what people say about you and what people think about you. You can only control your reaction. My reaction is the blind stigma. So I decided to make a documentary on how mental health is viewed in the Black community. I decided that it's too much of a stigma. It is the dust that we continuously sweep under the rug. It's the big elephant in the room that no one addresses. It's the veil of shame, and shame loves secrecy. It's the veil of shame that we wear, and it is the biggest silent killer in our community because we don't talk about it. And this is an aspiring actress to now being a mental health advocate because of that film, because it broke grounds in a way that finally people can realize that they're not alone. And I did it in a way where I wanted the Black community to not think that a person that's struggling with mental illness is haggard or homeless, the typical stereotypes that's labeled on us. I want them to know that you can be struggling with your mental health, you can be suicidal and look just like me. And so I gathered individuals in the community that were willing to share, and we're here. Sorry. But
thank you so much.
This is my journey. I feel like it's important to tell people the journey, because some people see the final outcome and they don't know the roots that were planted, the seeds that was planted, and everything that you had to go through in order to be here. So that's why when I stated in the beginning that I am the change that I want to see in this world. My whole career is built on taking a pain and remixing it into my purpose and leading by example.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I have a comment here from NV Thompson that says, finally connected. And I know why that is, because I see on my end that the first 5 minutes of us being on was not actually being broadcast. Okay. So they missed our introductions. So that was the problem. Remember, I was actually saying that it looked like Facebook wasn't connecting, and it was definitely not connecting. Yeah. YouTube also didn't connect as well. So I'm going to briefly say that this is an episode on mental health in the Black community. Worldwide, this is an issue, whether you're from Jamaica, Trinidad, from Canada, the US, Ghana, Nigeria. The Black community has an issue when it comes to the stigma of mental health. And this conversation is very important. I have a psychotherapist and Stacy-Ann Buchanan, who is a mental health advocate and filmmaker, who are guests on the show today. Later on, we will have another guest popping in, a surprise guest popping in later on. But so far, we have these two fantastic women. Stacy-Ann has just shared her story as to what led to her ending up becoming a mental health advocate. And thank you so much. She said a couple of things that perhaps you can also address, Genevieve, which were when she said that her father was saying that she shouldn't talk to other people about it. And that's something that in the Black community, and no matter where you're from, it's this whole thing of don't tell people, because there's this shame involved with sharing it with someone outside of your family or your inner circle. What do you think that stems from, if you know, and how can we overcome that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Stacy-Ann, for the context there. You speak with such passion and eloquence, and I feel your heart when you're telling your story, and that's really important to convey. When it comes to the Black community, and regardless of where we are, local or global, International. I find that we have come to a place where we've sort of normalized and perhaps even begun to celebrate some, some destructive behaviors. And one of those is secrecy, the rules surrounding information, and how we share that information, how and who we share that information with. And so, you know, that idea that we keep things to ourselves is really protective in intent, but destructive in manifestation. So we intend to keep the information insular so that we protect our family from the outside world that has historically been dangerous, a threat, damaging for us. But what happens is then we internalize some of those rules and it becomes damaging to us because we are unable to sort of connect, share, reach out for help, you know, really come to a place where we have greater understanding of what we are feeling, how we are feeling, what to do with all these feelings, and then, of course, how to get help as they relate to what we're feeling. So I think, you know, when it comes to sort of the foundations or perhaps some of how we've been informed historically, I don't necessarily think it's from a negative place. I think it's sort of a product of us as we've evolved over time. I don't know if that get that. It's like, oh.
Can you see me?
Yes.
I can see you.
Yes.
Okay, I'm back. The internet dropped for a second.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. All right, so Genevieve, you were giving an answer when the internet dropped.
Okay. So I can just sort of repeat it. Yeah, I was saying that when it comes to, well, first of all, thank you, Stacy, for your story. And I was saying that, you know, just in terms of the rules that we have been following and some of the behaviors that we've normalized within our community, the foundation hasn't necessarily been, oh, did we drop again? Uh-oh.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
So I was saying that we sort of normalized and perhaps even begun to celebrate some of these destructive behaviors. And I don't think that the intent is malicious. I think what was supposed to be something that protected us, right? Keeping information insular, it protects us from the outside world. It protects us from what historically has been a threat to us, right? And so in terms of intent, the idea or the normalization of the rules surrounding information, who we tell about what in our family, has been self-preserving, right, for the sake of survival. But in manifestation, it has become very damaging for us because then we are underdeveloped or undeveloped in our ability to understand, to talk about, and to deal with, as well as to get help when it comes to our affect or our emotions.
Okay. You certainly address those things, and it's still quite worrying the way that we are in our communities. How we still, even though we know all the things that you're saying, we still have a problem with people not wanting to share or being told that they need to go to the church. That's the other thing that in our community we find is, and it's not that I'm here to say that anything is wrong with anybody's particular faith, but one of the challenges that we have in our community is the give it to God, pray it away, and people making a person with mental health or depression feel like if it's not going away through prayer or through relying on their faith, then something's wrong with them, or they have to keep it inside. I don't know if you have faced this yourself personally, Stacy-Ann, if anybody's ever said anything like that. But Genevieve, is that something that is a problem that needs to be addressed?
When it comes to, especially when it comes to the church and maybe a sole responsibility framework, any sole responsibility framework is unhelpful. And so while, pray it away, give it to God, can be a part of the framework for solution, or a part of, or maybe not a part of, one of the resources that you access to help you, I don't think it can necessarily be the only resource. And so for sure, it's problematic to depend on or to rely on one thing that hasn't, in all of our years of living, or sort of addressing mental health care and health in general, it hasn't produced the results that we are claiming it's supposed to produce. And so there may be some questioning or some challenging of basis of those claims that we need to do, right? So prayer, yes, is great, but is prayer alone necessary? And so we have to sort of expand our thinking where addressing our whole person is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And Stacy-Ann, did you ever have this issue? Did people tell you to, pray about it? And how did you respond?
Absolutely. That was my dad's response, was to pray and drink tea and read my Bible. And I respond like this now that I've been educated and I've been in that boat. I say, if there's a doctor, if you go to a doctor for your physical well-being, why can't you seek professional help for your mental well-being as well? And I use it as a challenge to say, hey, there are different aspects, and the church and therapy can exist. They can exist. It's okay to use them in the same sentence, And I feel like it's a way of not addressing it. It's a way of turning a blind eye to the problem that exists. That's just their way of shaming it away, And I think more and more the Black community is realizing that it is okay. This is not a challenge to my faith.
Yeah, absolutely.
Away. It's okay for me to seek therapy, and I'm really a champion on normalizing therapy and normalizing healing. 100%. There is no shame in that.
That's good, and I think you're right about normalizing healing. That's very, very important, because I think we can get so caught up in the mental health issue that we don't think about how to process and how to get towards healing. We have one person here who says, in fact, what is mental health? Such a broad term. Mm-hmm. How would either of you describe it?
For me, mental health is your overall mental well-being. So there's mental health, and then there's mental illness. But you've got to take care of your mental health, just like you would exercise and eat right and drink your water for your physical health. It's important that you do that for your mental health as well. Like it's important that you take the necessary steps that you need to do and really protect it. It is your top priority. I believe that your mental health comes before your physical health, because in a way it's kind of like the machine that kind of guides you. You could hear that you failed the test. And if you don't condition your mental health in a way, you can become depressed, not depression, depressed, because a lot of people don't know there's a difference between being depressed and having depression. You can be depressed. It can be detrimental to you. Like, this is your one shot of passing a test and you actually failed it, right? But if there's a way that we can condition our mental health and making sure that we are taking care of that just as much as we put time into our physical health, emotional health as well. But it is a broad term because it is a big umbrella of your overall mental well-being.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know that Stacy-Ann, you have to get going in a few minutes. Your beautiful daughter's in the background. I heard you
Wow.
She's such a cutie. I wanted you to just talk about your film a little bit. For those who may not be familiar, because I do have an audience, half of my audience is in the US, I have audience in Canada, as well as the UK and parts of Africa, Australia, and Europe. Some people may not be familiar with your movie. If they wanted to watch it, where can they watch it if that's possible? And then what are some of the challenges in trying to get people to share their stories in the movie?
Okay, they can go to YouTube to watch it. Type in The Blind Stigma. The full film is there. Also the short version of the film is there as well. The challenges that I find was really getting a Black male's perspective to be a part of this documentary. We only have one Black male, and I'm so grateful and honored for Freddie coming on board saying, "Hey, I'm going to talk about it." It's because it's this big shame, it's this whole title of being the strong Black man. It's this whole title of saying if you break down or if you talk about it, you're going to be looked upon as being a sissy, quote unquote. You're not going to look upon as being strong. So there's a huge stigma from men, Black men especially, to come forward and talk about their mental illness, because society has placed them in such a category where it dehumanizes us, period. The label of the strong Black man and the strong Black woman, I have a huge issue with that. But I guess it's another time we'll talk about that. I am so passionate about that, about dismantling that whole term, because it's something that dehumanizes us and makes it seem like it's not okay for us to ask for help. And so the film, the challenges was really getting a male perspective, and also finding a director for the film. I found a director that I wanted to work with, but he felt like the Black community would not support the Black community. So I ended up doing the film myself. And I'm like, this needs to be seen. This is something that really needs to be seen. Making the film, the community really poured out. The community really, really helped and showed their support, whether their help was cooking the meals for us that day when we filmed, from donating t-shirts, from spreading the word. When the film premiered, it premiered February 7, 2015. It was a snowstorm that day. It was packed. We had people outside. I would say that the only challenge was getting a male's perspective, but this film it brought the community together. I have so much respect and love for everyone that has supported this film. And you can find it on YouTube.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Stacy-Ann. Definitely The Blind Stigma. I've seen it. And it does address some really, really important things. And when I saw it, because I knew some people in it, I was like, wow, I didn't know that this person was going through so much. So that whole thing of you see someone and they look like everything's great, but you don't know what's happening inside and behind the scenes, So I thank you for that particular film and what you did. It was amazing. It was fantastic. So thank you. And thank you for your time today. I know you got to get going. Yes. Do you have one last thought before you leave?
I do. I just want the community and everybody watching this to know that they are not alone. Hi, Trey.
Oh, wow.
I also want them to know that it's okay to ask for help, and that being strong is not carrying everything by yourself. Being strong is putting down that load and saying, hey, I need help. And more importantly, Ivy, I want to thank you for this opportunity. This whole political climate has made me really extremely exhausted mentally and emotionally, but I'm never too exhausted to continue the fight. I have a daughter, I have nieces, I have nephews, I have the younger generation that needs leaders like us, everyone here, to continue pushing forward. And I just want to extend this and say, if you ever want to do this topic again, I want to make sure that I'm available an hour to really sit and talk about it, because it's something that I'm very passionate about, and it's something that really needs to be heard. So I want to say, let's try and do this again if you can. I really want to.
Oh, sure. I do want to do it again. I wanted to get a man, but I had no success, just as you were saying.
I will help you, Ivy.
No guys wanted to come on. Some of them said it's a great topic. They know they've got some man issues, but they don't want to come on and talk about this, in public. So it's definitely a challenge getting the men on board. So
I will find you a guest. That is my job. I will find.
I can find you 1,000.
Yes.
Oh,
We're gonna do this again, Ivy, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So Stacy-Ann has to leave, and we have a new guest joining us, Tracy.
Hi, Stacy-Ann. I can't believe I'm missing you.
Like getting the
I
names
know.
Trey Anthony.
Hi, Trey. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
So Trey Anthony is our next guest joining us today. She is an accomplished writer, producer, playwright. She had a successful play called The Kink in My Hair that has been in Canada and the US, and she also had a TV series. She's also written for TV programs on OWN. She has a new book coming out soon called Black Girl in Love with Herself. And it is a self-help book. And I thought that she was a perfect addition to this conversation because when it comes to mental health, a lot of it is also about how we love or don't love ourselves. And a lot of the times, you know, when it comes to the pressures that we're going through in our lives, we're just not taking care of ourselves at all. So welcome to the show, Trey.
Thank you for having me, Ivy. Thank you.
You're welcome. If you can do a brief intro of yourself, because I know I didn't do you justice, so I'll let you do a quick introduction of yourself.
Cool. I'm an actor, producer, writer, best known for my work and TV show, The Kink in My Hair, and also How Black Mothers Say I Love You. And I started to, I guess I fell into the self-help space because a lot of my work centers on Black women and how we look after each other. And I started to just get like numerous emails, phone calls, women who are just like, how do you do it all? And how do you not fall apart? And especially in the kink one, in the monologues, dealt with a Black woman who was at the top of her game. And by the end of the monologue, she commits suicide. And I think that was when a lot of women really reached out to me to say that Sherelle monologue really spoke to me because I had been in that place several times myself. And I just knew after I wrote a piece for Huffington Post called If I Was a Black Girl in Love with Myself, and it went viral, and I'll paraphrase some of the things that I said in it. I was just like, if I was a Black woman, a Black girl in love with myself, I would go to therapy. I would deal with my sexual traumas. I wouldn't be in relationships that don't love me back. I would take time for self-care. I would deal with the relationship that I have with my mother. I would do work that I love. And from that, the book was born, Black Girl in Love with Herself, which is a self-help book that is directed directly at Black women, made for us, by us. And it's really just my own journey around self-love and self-help and how do we take care of each other. And I dedicated a whole chapter in the book around depression, anxiety, and suicide amongst Black women. And so it was really important for me to speak about that in the book.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction of yourself. Everyone, her book, as she said, is called Black Girl in Love with Herself. And let me put that on the screen so that you can see what the cover looks like.
Ooh,
that is the cover of the book, Black Girl in Love with Herself.
Thank you.
It is coming soon. Self-help is so important, so important. Trey, the other guest I have today is Genevieve Alao. She is a registered psychotherapist with about 10 years experience with counseling people. And so she's been giving some really great information from a professional standpoint on mental health awareness. I want to shift the conversation now to something we haven't gone too deep in yet, which is trauma as a Black person. And as Black women, specifically in the times we're living, you know, with this recent news about Breonna Taylor and her killers not being prosecuted or charged or anything, it's angering, and it makes the Black woman feel like, what is our worth? you know, and it's just one of the many instances that can affect our mental health, our mental wellness from day to day. So, Trey, I want to ask you, what are some of the things that you suggest women, Black women, do on a daily basis to try to support themselves mentally when we're exhausted with the way that things have been?
Great question, Ivy. For myself, and what I also recommend to a lot of my clients and people that I work with, is we have to unplug from the trauma. We have to really get away from the trauma. Myself, I do not watch any of the news, and I'm more than aware of what's going on in the world, right? And it gets filtered to me through various things. But I just realized, for me, I do not want to see Black men or Black women, you know, dying on my screen. There's no need for me to watch the video of George Floyd's death or read every single report about Breonna Taylor, because I know what's going on. We are quite aware as Black people that we are under siege. And I think sometimes we have to really be aware of what this vicarious trauma does to us. Myself, who's an empath, who takes in everything, I'm really aware of energy. And so for me, it's like taking first thing in the morning is making sure that I'm not looking at my phone. I do meditation. That is something that is really essential for me. I now have a newborn, and I remember many years ago, before I became a mother, and I used to say to women, oh, you got to meditate and you got to do this, you got to do that. Now I'm a mother. I wish somebody had kicked me in my mouth to say, where do you have the time to do all of this? So if I get in a meditation twice a week, I feel good about that, right? But before I was a mother, I was like, every day meditate, right? And sometimes you don't have that time, right, to do a 20-minute meditation. And sometimes it's just that simple thing of sometimes I know the schedule that my son gets up at. He usually gets up between 6 o'clock to 6:45. So I will usually get up about 5:30 to take that half an hour to start my day in a meditative state or to write a journal. The other thing that I do, which is essential for me, is I see a therapist. Every 2 weeks, and that is my hour for me to vent, to de-stress, to talk about my own traumas. And I think that is really important. I think as Black women, we really need to start to look at therapy as not just something for white women, that it's something that we desperately need. I remember when I told my mother I was going to therapy, she was like, right? And I was just like, no, I actually need it. And the other thing that I think is really important is exercise. My therapist had recommended to me, especially during the pandemic, I was going through a breakup of a great significance, ending a relationship of 5 years. I was a brand new mother. I was mothering in a pandemic with no sort of support. And I had no idea, because my son was adopted, that adoptive mothers actually go through postpartum depression. I had
Really?
that was news to me. And it wasn't until I was writing a piece for Huffington Post, and one of the parenting editors said to me, she goes, everything that you're telling me, that what you're going through and everything, she said, it sounds like you have postpartum depression. And I was like, well, no. I was like, no. And she said, yes. And I didn't realize, and I still denied that until I was actually interviewing a psychotherapist for my book, Black Girl in Love with Herself. And she started to list all of the symptoms that Black women go through when they're depressed. And I was doing a checklist. I had if there was 10, I had 12 out of the 10, right? And I was so stunned. And one of the things that she said, which really stuck out to me, and it is something I really want to stress to everyone listening, she said, when Black women are depressed, by the time we seek help, our symptoms are usually 10 times worse than white women. And she said, we do not believe in depression, and we do not go out and seek it. And our symptoms are much more severe. And it wasn't until I got off the phone with her, I said, oh my God, I'm in a severe depression. and I was able to seek help. And my therapist, one of the things that she suggested for me to help with my depression was actually running and jogging. And now I'm up to jogging nearly 5 kilometers every day. And that's something that I do with the baby.
Wow.
And it's something that it just really has helped my mental health. And for me, it's something that I think as Black women, we need to really talk about. We need to talk about medication and have no shame around that, and talk about seeking medication, seeking a therapist. All of those things help. And also, I think, especially in a pandemic, of making that connection, of human connection. When I first started walking an hour every day, I made sure on that hour to call someone on FaceTime and actually speak to someone and see someone, because I was lonely. And I think that's another thing that we don't talk about in this pandemic, of how loneliness really affects our mental health. And that was something that I did not even want to admit to myself, of how lonely and isolated I felt mothering in a pandemic, no longer having a partner to be able to speak to, not having any family. It was depressing. And when I finally saw someone for help, my therapist said to me, he said, "You're going through a breakup. You are also moving. You are a new mother. You are mothering in a pandemic, and you don't understand why."
Can you
you're
hear
depressed.
me? Having some internet challenges on my end.
Oh, I can hear you. Yes.
I can hear you.
Yes. So I just think that those things are really important, that we have to be aware and be able to seek help and not have shame around that. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Uh-oh, is Ivy there, or is she frozen?
I think she might be frozen.
I think she might be frozen. Genevieve, it might be just you and me, lady.
Well, hey Trey, how you doing?
Hey girl. Hey girl. You want to jump in on any of those points?
Pardon?
I said, you want to jump in on any of those points?
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
Absolutely, totally in line with what you're saying, because and the statistic, 10 times less likely to seek out therapy, and when we do, 10 times more severe in terms of our symptoms. And it's a really big thing, because the narrative surrounding how much we can handle as strong Black women
Girl.
very different from the narrative that those who are non-Black receive. And so there is encouragement then to seek out support and resources and help at the first signs of recognizing that we just don't have it. As you know, we're told, hey, it's normal to take on a lot. It's normal to feel the pressure, and you know, it's a sign of strength. And it's also somewhat of a badge of honor to be able to do it all. And it's just not true. So, you know, when we get to therapy, it's well, we have a crisis to deal with, and there's so much of a deeper hole to dig ourselves out of.
So very true. And I love what you say about the strong Black woman. Oh, Ivy's back. You're back, Ivy? Ivy?
Yeah, my internet has been a little bit unstable, and I have 2 different internets that keep cutting in and out. I normally have 2 internets on, and they both are on, and they're both just jumping on and off.
Oh, okay. No problem.
I can hear you, ladies, but I can't see you.
Oh, okay. We can see you, and we can
Struggles of having internet.
Now I see you.
Okay.
All right, we're back.
Yes. Okay, good. So we just kept talking because we had faith that you were going to come back for us. So I wanted to jump on the points that Genevieve talked about the strong Black woman. I know for me, one of the things where I was really reluctant in seeking help was around the fact I came from a single mom who worked 3 jobs. I came from a grandmother who got up at night and went and swept trains for a living, very
Wow.
working class. And I think a lot of us, when we see what our mothers and grandmothers have basically taken on and had the world on their backs, we kind of then don't think that we should feel any kind of stress or any kind of level of like, oh, I can't do this, because we look at our mothers and we look at our grandmothers and we're like, oh, but they did it without complaining and they were okay. And I think that's how we start to really play into this strong Black woman trope at all times, because we start thinking all of the time, if they can do it, then why not us? Like, what do we have to complain about? Like, I've heard my mother many times say to me, I wish I had your life. Oh, you have it so easy. So if you're hearing that, you then do not think that there's any place for you to complain about, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting because, of course, when we have that modeled for us, then our instinct is then to attempt to do the same thing, to exemplify what was modeled for us. And so a lot of those rules we carry on into our own lives to either decide to do or to guilt ourselves into doing. So we're shameful for not being able to handle, but we also have to recognize that there was a completely different generation involved.
Yes.
They had connections and solidarity and community that we just don't have, completely different context.
Very true.
So being able to recognize the nuances that provide for us a different way of seeing the world and attending to ourselves is really important when it comes to health.
Yes. So true. So very true.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm out here in these streets.
It's hard.
And I don't know if Ivy, are you here with us?
I think we've lost her.
Oh, Trey, I absolutely love your work, and out of Toronto, and you actually inspired me to write my first play. And this was a long time ago, but you did, so thank you for that.
Oh, amazing. I'm so happy when I hear Black women doing this thing and doing theater, because we need more Black women voices. So that is amazing.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm so glad that you're a psychotherapist. I got to get you on to do some talks around my book as well, because I'm
absolutely
a whole bunch of promos. So I'd love to get your opinion on things. So
anytime.
I think it's just so important. I think this topic is just so important because I did catch the tail end of the wonderful Stacy-Ann talking about the stigma of and the shame that we carry around mental health, and I remember when I was writing my book and I was talking about mental health in my family and how that has shown up in my family, how many women in my family had undiagnosed mental health.
Yes.
And we did not talk about it, but yet
Absolutely.
we knew that's what was going on. In my book, I talk about how I remember my grandmother, like maybe once every 3 months would just go into her room and close all of the curtains, and she would put the comforter over her head, and she would not come out for days. And I would just go into the room sometimes as a little girl and drop her off a cup of tea, and I would hear her being just like, I'm so fed up, I'm so fed up, I'm so fed up.
Oh.
And she would do that. And then maybe 4 or 5 days after, she would get up and everyone just went back to normal and life just went on.
Yeah, nobody talked about it.
Nobody talked about it. No one said a thing, nothing. And even when I was going through my own struggles, my mom was at my house one day, and after I got off the phone with my therapist, I said to my mom, I think I'm depressed. And she goes, of course you're depressed. Everybody knows you're depressed. And I was like, oh, what do you mean?
Wow.
But that was just it. And she was just like, but you're your mother's daughter. You'll figure it out. You'll work it out.
And even looking at that, the messages that you receive there as a young person, going into grandma's room, it's sort of like, oh, we deal with our problems in our rooms by ourselves, isolated without anybody else knowing. Is that sort of the thing that happens, right? And so seeking help or even talking to your mom or
it is so true. Uh-oh, don't tell me I lost Genevieve as well.
anybody else is sort of warning.
Yes.
We're back?
Oh.
Yeah?
Did
you lose me?
You're cutting out a little bit. Now you're back.
Okay.
Can you see me or hear me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay, because I can't see me, and now I can see you and hear you.
Oh, wow.
I don't know where poor Ivy. I think it's her internet in Ghana.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I loved the show. I thought it was great. And do we still have guests watching? Sorry, people watching?
I don't know. Are there people? Are there anyone?
If you're there, say something so we know we're not alone. Because I keep thinking it's just you and me, Genevieve. And that's it.
Which is fine. I'm okay.
That's okay. And where do you practice? How would people get in touch with you if they want to be a client?
Well, I'm in Toronto, GTA.
I have to say, I want to thank you two ladies for being so fantastic and continuing as I keep going off. Thank you so much, ladies. You are fantastic.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a great topic. We can sort of talk about this until, the end of time.
Can you hear me?
Right? Because there are so many nuances. I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Of all days for me to have the worst internet experience, today was such an important topic, and it just keeps dropping off today. I have to apologize and say you guys have been wonderful with the way you've been continuing on with the conversation.
That's how sisters support each other, lady. That's
it
what
is.
we do. That's what we do. The show must go on. That's what we do. That's how we support each other.
Love that. Love that. So fitting.
Right? Genevieve was telling people how they could reach her if they wanted to reach out to you and be a client of yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, cornercounselor.com or cornercounselor@gmail.com. Reach out if you need support. I recognize that there are a lot of issues surrounding mental health care, and especially within our community. We look at socioeconomic status, we look at funding, finances, access, and so on. So, if finances are an issue, I work with you because I do recognize the value and the benefit of mental health care in our community. So,
that's amazing.
Can you guys hear me again?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay. Trey, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
I can't see you guys either. I can see you guys, but I don't see me anymore. I don't know. I was there, and I don't know where I am.
Okay. When you see yourself, there should be okay, I think you may be coming back.
Am I back?
I see an icon. I don't see your face.
Okay, because I was trying to get back, but I don't see me anymore.
Maybe there's a button that says add to stream in your image.
No.
When you hover over yourself,
okay,
there should be an add to stream that pops up.
Okay, hold on. I don't know where the heck I am. Hold on.
Oh, she dropped off.
Uh-oh. Okay. There was a subtract from stream.
I have to commend you for continuing. This has been the absolute worst experience I've had with live streaming. The internet just keeps going and going, unfortunately, today. Okay, it looks like Trey is coming back.
Am I back? There we are.
Yes, you're back. There's a comment here that says it's an iPhone issue. Maybe you have an iPhone and that's the issue.
Yes. So what I did is I came out and now I came back in.
Okay.
I
all right.
the iPhone, so maybe that's what it was.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for for continuing on when I dropped off with this internet situation. You ladies have been fantastic. I commend you, and just great conversation going. I noticed in the comments there was one person who said, "Is this just for ladies today?" It was, I think, Kofi Azuma who had commented, and I wanted to address that, Kofi, that it's not just lit for ladies. Black women are part of the Black community. It happens to be we're talking about that right now. I wanted to have men on this, but no men agreed to come and be part of the conversation. Otherwise, we would have some men in this conversation as well. But for men to understand what Black women are going through is important, because we're your wives, your sisters, your mothers, your aunts, your grandmothers, your friends. So it's important that we do understand each other. I do want to have another one of these panel discussions and have a man on included in the conversation. It would be great. So hopefully after this, some of you guys who are watching will, reach out to people. Genevieve says she can assist with finding men to be on another panel to discuss this. So so that's great.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I want to mention again, to get in touch, I think you guys were talking about this when I was off. Genevieve said people can email you at cornercounselor@gmail.com. You can follow her at Corner Counselor on Instagram. As I said earlier, she is a registered psychotherapist. If you want to book a counseling session with her, book a consultation, you know how to get in touch with her so that you can, get the help you need. And Trey, I'm so happy that you mentioned therapy, because it is something that is necessary for us to get through some of the things that we're going through. And there shouldn't be any stigma attached to it. There's nothing wrong with going to get help. It's like you go to the gym to work out your muscles. You go for therapy to help with your mental and emotional support that you need to keep yourself going. I know I have been going through a lot with the pandemic too. I had a lot of the things that Trey, you mentioned earlier about, the anxiety, the loneliness, the isolation. I felt all of that just being at home and just locked up and no one to talk to. And I had to make an effort to say, okay, I'm going to call people more often. Let me do some video calls with people so I can feel some sort of connection and connectivity. Because when you're just home alone, you're there with your thoughts, and you're thinking about all these things, especially with the way the world was with the news. You did a great thing, Trey, by not watching the news. Meanwhile, I was being like, I got to see what's going on here. What's going on there? What's happening here? And then I'm in so many WhatsApp groups where people are sending so many things. They're sending videos and pictures, stories, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. Oh my God, I was panicking. Wow. During the first week of lockdown, I saw so many stories about symptoms of COVID-19, and then I was feeling like I was sniffling. I was like, do I have it? Oh my gosh, I think I have it. And I was panicking. My heart is fluttering. I'm like, oh my God, I think I have it. I'm gonna die. What happens if I die and I'm here and nobody I'm alone and nobody will find me? All those things, was all my anxiety. And eventually I left some WhatsApp groups that kept sending things. I had a friend who kept sending me stories I didn't want to see. And I told him, please stop sending me this stuff because it's making me more anxious. And he laughed and thought it was funny and then kept sending me stuff. And so I blocked him because I was like, I can't. But yes, I slowly watched less news, read less news.
Oh, no, we lost her again. No, it was so strong. We were doing so well.
I know. But I think that's a great point that she was sort of elaborating on. And Trey, I did the same thing you did. I mean, I completely disconnected. I didn't watch any news, didn't turn on the TV, I don't go on WhatsApp anyway, social media, that's not my thing. And that provided me the space that I needed to do what it is that would help me or feed me during that time. And of course, Black female therapists must have been the trending search on Google because there were so many people reaching out during that time, just the downtime allowing for people to think through all of what's been impacting them and affecting their moods and really doing the job of reaching out for help. And so I think there's the convergence of COVID-19 and the highlights as it relates to like racial trauma in the US, or racial injustice in the US sort of come to a place where we made that decision. Like, hey, I'm going to do what I need to do in order to deal with some of this stuff that's coming up. So yeah, I thought that was a great point.
Oh, I think Ivy's back.
I'm back. I think I'm gonna. I think I need to wrap this up because this internet is just crazy. And tomorrow I'm gonna have to go to. So I have in Ghana, there's Vodafone and MTN are the two top places, and I have both of those, and both of them are giving me problems right now. So you better believe tomorrow I'm gonna be going to their office and giving them a piece of my mind.
Yes, you are.
About this. So I even went and I went and because you have to buy bundles of data, and I went and bought a whole big bundle before this live stream, and this happened. So anyway, I want to remind everyone that we had Genevieve Alao, who is a registered psychotherapist here. If you need to reach out to her, you can send her an email at cornercounselor@gmail.com to book yourself a counseling session. And then I have Trey Anthony, who is an accomplished producer, writer, actor, creator of The Kink in My Hair, and her website is treyanthony.com. Her book, as mentioned earlier, is coming out soon, and it is called Black Girl in Love with Yourself. You can pre-order your copy at treyanthony.com. Once this live stream ends, I am going to put that link. I'll put that link in the comments so that I'll pin it to the top of the comments for both of their information so that you can get in touch with both of them. Buy her book, support Black authors, support Black women writers. This is a really, really important topic that she's writing about, Black women loving themselves. We have to love ourselves, love each other, support each other, because if we don't do it, we already know nobody else is doing it.
True.
So
Very true.
we definitely have to be doing it. So I'm going to let each of you give your final thoughts before we sign off.
Really cool. Well, thank you so much for having me. And Genevieve, it was wonderful sharing this space with you as well. I just really want to say to every Black woman out there who's watching, we do not have to carry the trope of strong Black woman. It is okay to say, I don't got this, because I know a lot of us always have, I got it, myself included. When I started talking about my own issues and struggles with depression, feeling isolated, feeling overwhelmed, so many people were like, you, but you always seemed like you got it together. And I think if there's one thing that I will say to people is check on your strong friends, check on the strong ones, because usually we're the ones who are just like curled up in a fetal position on our bed, right? Because we don't have it. And we're being that for every single person except for ourselves. So I would really say check on those people. I also want to encourage you guys to please buy my book, at treyanthony.com. It's being published by Hay House, which is the biggest self-help publisher in North America. And it's the first time they're doing something that is geared specifically at Black women. So we got to show up, show out, and say, we support this book and we need this book and we're behind this book. So I can't stress how important that is. And thank you ever so much. And I would say an Instagram away. Follow me at Black Girl in Love with Herself. Anybody who needs support, I always try and reach out and help you as much as possible and give you resources that I can.
The Instagram again is Black Girl in Love.
Yes, Black Girl in Love. That's my Instagram at Black Girl
and
in Love.
There's no underscore or anything, right?
Nope, straight Black Girl in Love. Yeah.
That's it. So that's her Instagram handle right there on the screen.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Genevieve, final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to absolutely thank you so much again. And yes, Trey, a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. I think, Ivy, you were off when I was telling Trey that she was like one of my idols. And she actually encouraged me and motivated me and inspired me to write my first theater production. So, yay. So this has been extra special for me.
Thank you.
But yeah, just in terms of us as a community doing the work towards healing and towards relief of the pressure, relief of the pain, relief of what's going on the inside that we are not okay with. I think one of the things that we need to realize is that people reach out and seek help because they're not feeling good. And sort of creating a space and a framework and sort of an openness towards discussing emotions and feelings and all that kind of stuff can really bring about that relief that we're seeking and that recovery that we're seeking from the pain and from the wounds. Life gets heavy. That's the truth. And the stuff that we've got to deal with on a daily basis really was never ever meant for us to do alone. We are meant to live in community. We are created for relationship and reaching out, touching someone else, supporting someone else, helping someone else, but also asking for the support and help that you need is important. That's what community is all about, what we are all about as human beings. So let's do that and encourage everyone to make space and make room to do that in their lives. And of course, don't date anybody that doesn't do therapy.
That's right.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I'm with you on that.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, a whole different conversation. 110%.
It is. I was joking about that part. I was joking. For all of
but you make a good point there.
Good point.
You make a good point. So thank you so much, ladies. Again, we're wrapping up, and thank you everybody who's here and stuck it through as my internet kept popping in and out. Thank goodness we have these wonderful ladies who kept the conversation going, and I'm sure that all of you who are on enjoyed it. As I said, Trey Anthony, buy her book, Black Girl in Love with Herself. Visit her website, treyanthony.com, to pre-order your copy. Genevieve, you want to book an appointment with her, you need some therapy, you just want someone to talk to, visit her website, cornercounselor.com, and get started. Don't be afraid to take the first step. So again, treyanthony.com for Trey, and for Genevieve, cornercounselor.com. You can reach them both. And I'm going to put the cover of the book here again so you don't forget what it looks like. Black Girl in Love with Herself. That's the book. Get it, get it, get it. I got to go online and do my pre-order of a copy too.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's happening right now.
Yes. Support a sister. Support a sister. So thank you so much, ladies. Thank you everybody for watching. Put your comments in and we'll do our best. I'll do my best to respond to all your comments. Thank you.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thanks, Ivy. Bye, Trey.
Thank you so much. Bye, Genevieve. Take care.
Bye.